flat out, is Baker Mayfield the guy? I'll let you guys put your own kind of answers. I won't force you feed you into one or two options. Let me know, sound off, because this video is all about our good friend number 6. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. Today, we're going to go over some possible Baker Mayfield replacements. Didn't want to do this video, but I've seen enough chatter in the comments about putting Case Keenum out there. I've seen plenty of comments saying Baker is just not the future for Cleveland. So to entertain those ideas, and honestly just to kind of do my own homework and due diligence, and a little fun of if the Browns wanted to explore other avenues, what would it look like? We're going to go down that rabbit hole today, but I want to get ahead of it right now and say this. I'm not giving up just yet on Baker. There's a lot of football left. The Browns are going to learn a lot about themselves on this Sunday against the Ravens at home in what truly is a playoff game. Win or go home. Kind of like that throughout the rest of the season. If Cleveland wants to make the playoffs, I did a playoff video on Monday. I'll post that link down below. They got to win, I think, 4 out of the next 5. But anyway, I'm not giving up just yet on Baker Mayfield. But let's say GM Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski have given up on Baker. Well, here are some trade options. The biggest one out there is Aaron Rodgers, but I don't have him as number 1. I've got Russ over Rodgers. That's just my preference, okay? I just don't want to trade for an older quarterback in Rodgers. Granted, he's better than Russell Wilson, but I'll take the couple extra years on Russ and Rodgers. I just can't really get a good sense or beat on if he wants to play football for 5 to 6 more years. And the next guy, if you're going to trade for a quarterback, you're not trading for 2 seasons out of him. You want 5 to 6. And you get that with Russ. I just don't know if you get that with Rodgers. Kirk Cousins, I think he gets a lot of crap, and deservingly so a lot of times. But I do think he's better than most people give him credit for, although I just don't think the Vikings are going to move on from Kirk Cousins. So that leaves us down to Ryan and Jimmy G. We'll explore those 2 options, but it's just unfortunate the Browns, I don't think, can land Wilson or Rodgers. I just don't envision either of those quarterbacks wanting to be in Cleveland. That's why I think it's unlikely that either of those guys end up suiting up in brown and orange for the future. Russell Wilson, he had some trade rumors come out last offseason, and I think his wife Sierra is pushing a lot of it. I don't think she wants to live in Seattle. I went to Seattle back in March. It was cold and rainy, and I don't blame her. And I don't think she wants to move to kind of a blue-collar and smaller city in Cleveland. I mean, no offense, but I just think she'd rather be under the big glamour of New York, LA, Chicago. And let's just face facts, Cleveland is just not that kind of city. And I think Rodgers, if he's going to go elsewhere, he's going to handpick where he wants to go. And I could see him maybe going down a Denver or unfortunate Pittsburgh path. Let's just hope that isn't the case. But I don't envision either of those 2 guys playing for the Browns, as great as that would be. But would you guys want to trade for a quarterback? Be the GM for me. Honestly, be Barry. Type T for trade or P for pass. Let me know down below, because trading for a quarterback is awesome. But you got to remember, it's going to cost a lot to get those kind of guys. So we'll make this the pinned comment. If you get hit with the YouTube ad break, scroll on down, reply for me, let me know, and then come back and join for the rest of the video. Like I said, the Browns, it would cost a lot to get one of those big figures of Rodgers or Wilson, and they don't have that luxurious extra draft capital. They don't have extra 2nd and 3rd round picks coming up in the 2022 NFL Draft. And Cleveland right now, they're on track to have a second half 1st round pick. What do I mean by that? They're not going to be picking in the top 16 of the 2022 NFL Draft. Knock on wood, hopefully. So what team is going to want to trade for a Browns 1st round pick that's going to be like 20th overall? Compared to another team, I don't know, like the Eagles, who have 2 first-round picks. One of them is going to be a lot earlier. So I just don't see Cleveland having much to bring to the table to get Rodgers or Wilson. On the other hand, Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo, that's a little interesting, because those quarterbacks are not going to be as pricey. You know, it's the Walmart version. Probably even a little worse than that. But I think Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo are much more affordable pieces. So let's go down that path, okay? Let's start with Matty Ice here. He's got 2 more years left on his contract. Now, there is an out after this season, but contracts are fluid. Things can change. So we're not going to dive into a contract that can easily be moved around, because that's what GMs do for a living. The Falcons could move on from Matt Ryan after this year because I believe ever since that disastrous 28-3 lead, Atlanta needs to gut the entire program. Okay, gut everyone, and that includes Matt Ryan. Literally only Arthur Blank, the owner, should be the only one left if they really want to get all the demons out from that blown Super Bowl. And Matt Ryan, I think he's better than people give him credit for nowadays, but I do believe the Falcons maybe want a fresh start. And maybe that involves getting on with Ryan, kind of like they did Julio Jones. They got a second rounder for Julio, probably winning that trade right now with the Titans. So with the Browns in a win-now mode, Matt Ryan could make some sense because I think Matt Ryan, he's 36 years old. He can get you 4 to 5 more good years. Look at some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Aside from Patrick Mahomes, a lot of them are up there in the age column, like Stafford. Well, he's not having a good season right now, but Brady. Now, everyone can be a Tom Brady, but still. We're going to talk about Matt Ryan a little bit more, but first, we got this awesome deal going on at Fanatics. It is 50% off, $35 for this great jacket right there, and the holiday season's around the corner. Every single video I do a Fanatics deal for you guys, I tell you guys if you've watched before, I've yet to do my holiday shopping. Not today. I'm getting ahead of it, and you guys can get ahead of it too. Get this jacket right now. Use that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/BrownsJacket. I've got it in the comments and the description of this video. So hook yourself up, hook a loved one up with this dope jacket right there. 50% off. The sale won't last forever, so make sure you get on it today because before you know it's going to be back to full price, and you'll be kicking yourself. Let's digress. Baker versus Matt Ryan. Here's how the numbers compare for these two quarterbacks this season. Matt Ryan's having a better year across the board than Baker. Now, Baker's dealt with injury, so we can address that, no doubt about it. But regardless, I think Ryan is a more lucrative option for just this year. What brings Baker more into this conversation is the longevity and the youth and, you know, his experience in Cleveland. But if you can get the old Matt Ryan, there's no denying that Matt Ryan, when he's at his best, he's one of the best in the NFL. He had an MVP season back in their Super Bowl run in 2016, nearly threw for 5,000 yards. Awesome touchdown-interception ratio, 38-7. So when Matt Ryan's on his A game, he is among the top. But when he's not, it can be like a 300 yards, 3 touchdown, 3 interception performance in a blown loss, because that's what the Falcons tend to do. Would you want Matt Ryan? Y for yes, N for no, plain and simple. Let me know if you're in on Matty Ice or if you've watched enough Falcons games when the Browns aren't on and you're like, I don't want to. Let me find a different quarterback. Let me stick with Baker. Let's say you want Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll entertain this idea because he's a little more of a polarizing quarterback. He does have just 1 year left on his contract. I don't see a way the 49ers want to bring him back. One, that remaining year is a very expensive price tag. You also just drafted Trey Lance. So if you're going to use a 3rd overall pick on a player, you better see some productivity from him at least in year 2, I would think. I just don't envision them wanting to sit Trey Lance behind Jimmy G for 2 straight years, but maybe they do. And I don't think Garoppolo is as bad as advertised. I think he's underwhelming. I think he's disappointing in some ways, but he's not one of the worst quarterbacks. He isn't that bad. Let's compare Jimmy G to Baker like we did with Matt Ryan, and you'll see that Garoppolo's having a better season as well. Again, Baker's injured. He's banged up. He's missed a game. I get that. This is not a good resume for Baker and him displaying his best self. But like Matt Ryan, when Jimmy G's at his top, he's not a bad quarterback in the NFL. Remember when the 49ers pulled off a miraculous Super Bowl run that resulted in Garoppolo overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders? Well, he had a pretty good year that year. Came up just short of 4,000 yards. Awesome touchdown to interception ratio. So when Garoppolo's on his A game, that's not a bad quarterback to have for your roster. Before we get to the rest of the list here, if you hate the Ravens, which I know you do, then subscribe right now. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for your hatred for the Baltimore Ravens and how big of a game this week. Because listen, if you don't subscribe, I'm not saying the Browns are going to lose. I would never say that. But do you really want that bad karma? The Browns need every little bit of ounce of help they can get this Sunday. Make sure you hit that big red button and do your part. Let's say we look at the draft. Maybe the Browns don't want to trade. They want to draft a quarterback because we know Cleveland has so much success at drafting a quarterback. Here's what Mel Kiper's current rankings look like. It's about a month old, but this is the latest quarterback rankings he has for the 2022 NFL Draft. He's got the guy not too far out of Cleveland, Pittsburgh's Kenny Pickett, the #1 quarterback. I think he's like a Kirkland, Brandon Weeden kind of. He's older. He's been at Pitt for a while, and we learned how that went with Brandon Weeden. I'm just not all that jazzed up and pumped about drafting like a 24-year-old rookie. Sure, he comes in more mature and not going to be, a sober Johnny Manziel, so to speak, but I just don't know if I can wrap my head around Pickett. And the rest of the quarterbacks, listen, if any of these quarterbacks were in last year's draft, they would be taken after the fifth pick, the fifth quarterback taken to Mac Jones. That's how weak this quarterback class is. I don't think it's a good quarterback class whatsoever. Maybe I'm going to be proven wrong because I was reminded that the 2017 quarterback class was perceived as not a good quarterback class, and that brought Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. It also brought Trubisky. But still, I'm not in love with this quarterback class, and I don't want another first-round bust. The Browns have done this before. We don't need to repeat history. And at a certain point, you got to stop and go, this isn't working. We have some strengths in our organization. We have some weaknesses. Identifying quarterback talent in the first round is not a strength. I understand it's a new regime here, and maybe GM Andrew Berry is, but I don't know if I want to pay the price of moving on from Baker, watching him succeed elsewhere, and just, going in circles with another bad first-round bust. Who do you want the Browns quarterback to be in 2022? You want it to be Baker, someone to draft, someone to trade. Keep it somewhat realistic here because we like to have fun on the show, but let's not go way outside the pocket like Tom Brady, as fun as that would be. But let me know, comment below who you want the Browns quarterback to be next season. Finally, we look at the free agent list. I say this for last because it's not the best for last, it's the worst for last. I put Ben Roethlisberger on here just to bring up the fact that Big Ben thought he had to mention in private circles that he doesn't expect to return to the Steelers next season as a quarterback. Yeah, no shit, Big Ben. You've been awful all season. You have been just coasting off a huge contract you signed a couple of years ago, and the Steelers couldn't get out of it, and the salary cap was so low they were forced to stick with you. So yeah, Big Ben not coming to Cleveland, no chance whatsoever. But I like to, rag on Big Ben, so if I get a chance, I will do that. Fitzmagic's on here. He's hurt. I don't know if he's going to play again. Dalton and Foles with the Bears. Maybe Dalton wants to give it another go. Jameis Winston's probably the best name out there, and he's coming off an ACL tear, and I don't think the Saints want to move on from him. I bet they bring him back next season. So not a good list of free agents. That's why if you're going to move on from Baker, it's got to be either through a trade or through the draft, in my opinion.